Well, European countries export an array of goods to the U.S., French wines, Italian fashion, Irish butter. But for Germany, the car industry is king. And that key sector looks set to face a harsh new reality soon.
And as our domestic agenda cannot be seen separately from global developments around us, let me start with the U.S. tariffs.
Germany, France, and Denmark, three of Europe's leading countries, have introduced a new wave of policies that have disrupted the calculations of American automotive giants. A range of regulations, from stringent environmental standards to customs procedures, has significantly weakened competitiveness of American vehicles in the European market. The fact that the U.S. automotive industry, valued at around $1.5 trillion, is facing such a serious challenge is a concern not only for automakers and their employees, but also for the broader global economy. For many countries, the automotive industry is not just about production. It lies at the heart of technological innovation, the supply chain, and even diplomatic relations. This evolving situation raises questions about the America First approach.
A new vision will govern our land. From this day forward, it's going to be only America first. America first.
Which President Trump often championed during his tenure. It is unclear whether the recent actions by Germany, France, and Denmark will significantly reduce American automotive exports or undermine their competitiveness. But the uncertainty has created confusion within the U.S. administration. Will these developments force the U.S. automotive industry into radical transformation, or will a new trade war erupt? Can American companies, especially those lagging behind in the electric vehicle revolution, quickly adapt to Europe's disruptive environmental regulations, or will they lose the European market and suffer major economic repercussions? While Europe's move toward tough climate policies is seen by some as necessary for combating the climate crisis, others argue that it may be an unfair trade barrier against American vehicles. The dilemma centers on whether Europe is right to take tough measures to combat climate change, or if the U.S.'s claims of unfair competition have merit. As the automotive industry is increasingly shaped by environmental policies, the future of American companies in the European market looks uncertain. Historically, the U.S. automotive industry has been associated with Detroit and global brands like Ford and General Motors, which led in volume production, technology, and design. For decades, the U.S. was regarded as a leader in automotive manufacturing. However, Europe, particularly Germany, has overtaken the U.S. in recent years with advancements in engine technology, luxury car manufacturing, and environmental standards. France, known for its innovative automobile design, and Denmark, with its aggressive green energy policies, have emerged as key players on the global automotive stage. Germany, France, and Denmark's recent policy shifts, including tougher environmental standards and incentives for electric vehicles, have made it increasingly difficult for American automakers to remain competitive in the European market. Many of the large, high-fuel consumption vehicles traditionally produced by U.S. manufacturers are now at a serious disadvantage in the face of Europe's rising environmental concerns. Some argue that these policies are designed to exclude U.S. vehicles, while others see them as part of a larger trade war. The U.S., particularly under protectionist policies of President Trump, has long been concerned about Europe's trade practices, including the dominance of German cars in the U.S. market. In response to these changes, the U.S. automotive industry is facing a major challenge. Germany has introduced stringent environmental standards and is pushing for the transition to electric vehicles, making it difficult for American brands like Ford and General Motors to compete. France has strengthened support for its domestic automotive industry, with increased incentives for French brands like Peugeot, Citroën, and Renault, and a shift toward electric vehicles. Similarly, Denmark, though smaller in size, has emerged as a key advocate for sustainability, with policies aimed at reducing carbon emissions from the automotive sector. These developments have raised serious concerns in the U.S., particularly for manufacturers who are slow to adopt electric vehicle technology. If U.S. automakers fail to meet Europe's emission standards, they may find themselves excluded from key markets like Germany, France, and Denmark. Additionally, the increasing support for domestic production in these countries further complicates the situation for American companies, which fear new taxes, tariffs, or other regulatory hurdles in Europe. For years, President Trump emphasized a protectionist economic agenda, pushing for fairer trade deals and accusing Europe of benefiting unfairly from trade imbalances. However, the recent European action suggests that Europe is asserting its own interests, particularly in protecting its automotive industry and addressing the climate crisis. This has led to a growing divide between the U.S. and Europe, with potential repercussions for transatlantic relations. While the U.S. automotive industry faces significant challenges in Europe, it is important to note that these challenges are not solely the result of tariffs, but also the weaponization of environmental and safety standards. To continue exporting to Europe, U.S. automakers may need to invest heavily in research and development to meet stringent emission standards or risk losing market access. In the long term, the U.S. automotive industry may need to shift its focus toward electric vehicles or risk falling behind. Brands like Tesla, which have already embraced electric vehicles, are well-positioned to benefit from Europe's green policies. However, for traditional American manufacturers, adapting to these changes could be a costly and time-consuming process. If the U.S. fails to make the transition, it could lose its competitive edge in the European market and suffer economic losses. As the global automotive landscape evolves, the U.S. and Europe will likely need to engage in complex negotiations to find a balance between environmental goals and trade interests. In the short term, American manufacturers may have to focus on the domestic market or other regions like China and South America. However, Europe's green revolution may force the U.S. automotive industry to rethink its approach or risk being left behind. In conclusion, while the claim that the $1.5 trillion U.S. automotive industry is being paralyzed may be an exaggeration, it is clear that the industry faces significant challenges in Europe. The green policies of Germany, France, and Denmark are reshaping the automotive market, and American automakers will need to adapt quickly to remain competitive. How this situation unfolds will depend on the ability of the U.S. to navigate the changing global trade landscape and respond to Europe's environmental concerns. What do you think? Are Europe's green policies strong enough to paralyze the U.S. auto industry, or can American automakers adapt and remain competitive? Will President Trump's surprise be a tactical maneuver, or is it a sign of an unexpected defeat? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notification for updates on this ongoing transformation.